Good day there once again, viewers. This is your mate Kamikaze78 here, coming to you guys with some more PlanetSide 2 content. Now today guys, I wanted to have a chat about something that I've seen come up on the PlanetSide subreddit as of late. Something that addresses one of the core aspects of the game, and something that even has a take on addressing the new player experience once again. Let's talk about the grind, the ever-continuing grind that is the progression of PlanetSide 2. PlanetSide 2's progression system is an interesting animal when you look at it, as it attempts to mesh the characteristics of a standard shooter's progression system, such as one found in Battlefield, and that of a free-to-play MMO system that offers a free-to-access progression, all the while lightly encouraging the player to buy items that will either help them to progress or make them look cool, as this is the game's primary source of revenue. Now, PlanetSide 2 does handle this mix very well at the core when it comes to the balance between things you can buy and things that you can earn, and I want to quickly eliminate any possible suggestion that this game is pay to win. Yes, guns, XP boosts, and implants are all available to be purchased with real money, but guns are all side grades of one another, which still makes the default weapons some of the best for all-round use in the game, bar a couple of exceptions. You can play with pretty much all of the content of the game without spending a single cent. It will take you a while, but it is more than possible, and you won't be at a significant disadvantage in the grand scheme of things. Sure, of course, being a new player, you will be disadvantaged because you're going up against players who have got better gear than you in the form of upgrades, but weaponry-wise, there's not really going to be a straight-up disadvantage. So, the game in a nutshell needs to provide enough of a carrot on the stick mentality to keep players wanting to unlock the stuff without falling too far into the grindy feeling that can make progression seem unrewarding to try and incentivize a purchase with the free-to-play model. And this is where the focus of the conversation has been in the community lately, the grind of PlanetSide 2, the task and length of time it takes to level up a character and unlock new items. As of late, the devs have been pretty generous with double or even 4 times XP events, and anyone who has played in these events can vouch for the fact that the game does feel as though, from a progression standpoint, that it slows to a crawl as soon as said events wrap up. I know that I have definitely felt that way after such events, and it can, to some extent, bring to light just how slow it can be to progress through this game, especially when you're getting some of the late tier unlocks. And I don't want to consider myself to be in the top tier category of this community when it comes to skill, but I wouldn't also consider myself entirely trash. I'm sure some people would disagree with me, but, you know, each to their own. Either way, it still takes me a couple of 2 to 3 hour long sessions to earn the required search just to unlock a single gun. As someone who knows the game and loves it for what it is, that doesn't bother me all that much. But imagine being a new player who comes into the game looking for a new shooter to see all this progression in the game. Holy shit, this is the Battlefield series on steroids. I mean, Battlefield 5 wasn't the greatest of games, so this is great to see. I've got this open sandbox environment to approach engagements in any way I see fit. This will be fantastic. You get through the first 15 BR ranks and earn all of your bonus certs for ranking up, and then you start to realise that beyond that, the grind can get pretty real unless you decide to invest into Daybreak Coin or get a membership and that sort of thing. I mean, to unlock a single gun for a single class, you need to dump hours into the game, and at that same time, if you decide you want a new gun, you can't dump your certs into anything else like your vehicles or classes, kind of limiting your effectiveness on the battlefield. And I know that many vets of the game urge a new player not to buy guns at the start. I know I sure as shit preach that like no tomorrow. But as a new player, if you're told not to buy new guns at the start of your experience in a first-person shooter game to avoid haltering your ability to progress through the game quickly, then I would say that probably isn't going to be the greatest first impression. It completely counteracts the sandbox element of PlanetSide. Being a game that aims to let people engage in any way you want, you kind of want to allow for people to freely explore all these different paths without needing to feel as though you need to put hours upon hours of gameplay time in just to make a single step without, you know, working on multiple things at once. To draw a comparison, and I know this is an older game, but I personally think as though the progression in this game was perfect, in Battlefield 4 you would play with a class, unlock items for that class as you earn XP through it, and at the same time earn XP towards the weapon you're using. There are constant rewards handed to the player to improve their chosen playstyle by using the gear that they wish to use, and at the same time, they're ranking up a weapon to earn more attachments for it, and they're ranking up a weapon class to earn new weapons for that weapon category. It's a win-win situation. It drives the player to continue playing the game because they keep getting incentivized with new rewards. With PlanetSide 2, new player incentives have been added to the game, but these only apply for a very brief entry period into the game, and to some extent I fear adds a misleading perception on how the overall progression of the game feels. Giving the new player a taste of how progression feels only for some of the cert income to be stripped away through leveling up is not exactly what I would call the best scenario to be in. We've also had changes made where players were given gear as they created a character straight out of the gate to help them settle into the chaos a little easier, and while I can see the good intentions behind those decisions that were made long ago, I personally believe that the experience would be more rewarding for new players if they were able to engage in a more consistently engaging progression system, you know, that say lets them unlock such gear items for themselves and feel as though they are constantly accomplishing something. The very last thing you want a player to feel when they log off is as though they've unlocked nothing, they've accomplished nothing, and as you grind for some items in PlanetSide, it can feel that way, especially if you're going for a new gun. When you have a free-to-play game, you don't want to make the standard progression feel unreachable or inaccessible, as that completely contradicts the accessibility that comes from the game's free-to-play nature. Just on my stream yesterday, we discussed the accessibility of the current implant system and how grindy it is to get into. A viewer of the stream commented that 4 ISO recycler boxes pretty much netted him a constant exceptional implant, so I decided to do some math. 1 ISO recycler requires 500 ISO, which means you need 2000 ISO to come close to getting that exceptional implant. Now, considering how rare ISO is to get, the common method is to grind out deluxe implant crates, which in turn give you 225 ISO if they are all duplicates in the crates. So the cert cost behind that number of crates you need to buy in order to get the ISO for the number of recyclers is 6,750 certs. Look, I know that the implant system was clearly intended for late game content, I get that, but even as a veteran player who only really has implants left to unlock my main character that interests me, grinding for days on end chasing a particular implant only to have no guarantee to get it is not fun progression. I mean, for Christ's sake, the last exceptional implant I unlocked was Coldheart, the implant that helps with heat mechanic weapons. I got that on my fucking NC character. That was 6,750 certs essentially down the toilet, you know, grinding out an implant that now means nothing on that character. And I want to make one thing incredibly clear here. To me, PlanetSide 2 is not all about its progression system. Like, I play PlanetSide 2 for the experience, but most players out there are very much about unlocking stuff. A lot of people want to be rewarded when they play a first-person shooter nowadays. When Call of Duty 4 released with its creator class system, everyone was keen on the whole constant unlocks, getting new weapons, getting new attachments, getting new perks, that sort of thing. This is now a new norm of the gaming industry and the first-person shooter genre, so PlanetSide 2 needs to capitalize on that. And right now I don't think that the progression system of PlanetSide 2 is its key seller for new players, only due to the time and investment needed to make meaningful purchases, especially towards new weapons. And yes, new weapons. This is a shooter, people should be allowed to be excited to buy new guns. And once again, as I said before, I preach the fact that new players shouldn't be buying weapons with their first 1000 certs. But at the end of the day, I don't like that we're in the mentality now that a new player has to play a combat medic and has to play an engineer just to be rewarded with a decent cert income for someone who isn't a member. I don't think that should be the case. And in saying that, I do understand the counter-arguments that support the progression as it is. You know, the fact that, for one, the devs need to make money. The game costs nothing to get into, and because of that, the devs need to provide some incentive for players to financially support the game. And I get that. There's also the argument out there pointing to the fact that the length of progression means that you always can aim to unlock new stuff. Once again, fair point. But in that case, you know, PlanetSide 2 has got enough unlockable content for all of its classes and vehicles that you will not actually unlock everything by the time of reaching BR 100. And this is actually before the implant system was implemented. When I got to Battle Rank 100, I had enough certs. I didn't have enough certs to unlock everything in the game. And that was the end game of PlanetSide 2 at the time. There's also been the rather ridiculous argument that states that it only allows the committed players to stay for the long term, but to be honest, the game isn't exactly in a state to be that picky with who's playing it or not. All I'm saying, guys, is that it has been proven time and time again that PlanetSide 2's problem isn't that people aren't trying the game. It is that the game struggles to maintain the interest of players as time goes on. BR1 to BR15 is rewarding to a certain extent, but once again, once those early game incentives are removed, the new players are really going to feel like they're on a grind just to unlock anything meaningful. And in a first-person shooter game, no matter how much we can preach against it, a gun is going to be considered meaningful to the average Joe that's checking out a free-to-play shooter game that looks like a Battlefield on steroids. This game is meant to be a grand open-scale warfare sandbox where players are able to participate in any way they wish to. I just fear that as it stands right now, the progression system and how long it takes to progress in some cases in PlanetSide 2 turns plenty of gamers away from enjoying the game for the long term. I understand completely that the developers have to make money, and I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't be making money, but what must be understood here, and this is actually me bringing out some experience from my days in retail, is that in order for a customer to want to make an investment in a product, they need to see the value in it first. A new player is not going to jump straight into a free-to-play game like PlanetSide 2 and start looking for ways to pour their money into the title. At the end of the day, they need to get a feel for the game and how it plays, how it flows, and from then they decide whether or not the game has any value to them. If, in PlanetSide 2's case, a new player comes across the somewhat grindy progression system straight off the bat and sees how long it's going to take them to earn the amount of certs to unlock a new weapon, which is a cornerstone of every shooter game, they're going to be instantly turned off by it. They're not going to take the time to learn the game, they're not going to take the time to see the value of the game, and therefore they're not going to make any further monetary investment. Therefore, you've lost a potential player and a potential customer. If we flip that around, where a gamer can see the value of the game straight off the bat with a rewarding progression system that keeps them continually unlocking stuff day in, day out, then boom, you may have yourself a recurring customer who is going to keep buying camos, membership, and an XP boost. But the quote-unquote proposal or point that I'm making in this video relates to the very core of PlanetSide 2. So therefore, do I have a solution for the situation? No. Does this solution need to be made? I don't know. This is a topic that requires rebalancing of the market's prices and XP earn rates across the board that cannot be answered and explored in a single video, and for that, I do not have all the answers here. A suggestion would be a light XP earn increase, anywhere from 1.2 times to 1.5 times increase, nothing like a straight up 2 times 24/7 to make a small improvement, but I'm definitely not going to suggest that that is the one true answer to the topic here and now. If anything, I want to use this video as a discussion with you guys. What do you think? Do you think we have a problem with PlanetSide 2's progression? Could that be the reason new players struggle to get into it? Or one of the reasons that new players struggle to get into this game? Or am I reading way too far into this? Is the game perfect as it stands? I am merely one opinion here, and I have merely only started the conversation, which I can only assume will be a long-standing conversation within the community. At the end of the day, I clearly enjoy PlanetSide 2 in its current form. I just worry about the way in which the current system impacts the perception of the new player, and right now, if there's one thing PlanetSide 2 can't afford to be, it's picky with who it appeals to in the long run. And I think I could speak for everyone here when I say that we want this game to last as long as humanly possible. Anyway guys, that concludes today's video. A lot of theory to discuss in this one, more questions than answers, but at the end of the day, I really wanted to have this conversation. It's something I've been thinking about a lot ever since the last couple of double XP and 4 times XP events have come and gone at the end of the day. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, a backhanding of that like button would be greatly appreciated, and if you find yourself new to the channel and you enjoyed today's video, why don't you go around and backhand that subscribe button on your way around and hit the notification bell to ensure you keep up to date with all content I release in the future, guys. I've got a lot of videos on the way, just taking a bit longer to release them because I'm going back to uni shortly. As always guys, I stream on Twitch, and you can also see updates from me on Discord and Twitter. All social media links are in the pinned comment down below, as well as in the description. Once again guys, really hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.